you don't want to risk the integrity of your business by continuing to present that irritant to them if they've been so sensitive to it in the past, right? It's just not best practice. Hello, baddies.
And hello, besties.
And welcome to My Lash to Brain
Brain
Cells.
Cells.
I'm your host, Maddie Morris.
And I'm your host, Elliot Morris.
And we are talking about something so glam, so hot, so fun and fresh. And that is lash allergies and sensitivities and irritations. Ooh,
so fun.
So gorge. Like the part of the industry that no one likes to talk about online because it's like kind of horrific. I feel like the place that everyone talks about allergies, irritations, let's call them irritations. The place that people talk about reactions and irritations is always Facebook groups. And if there's one thing that I could encourage you to do,
If there's one place you shouldn't talk about,
it is Facebook groups, because again, these are groups filled with your peers. They are people that have the same questions and maybe
they don't know.
A lot of them don't know. And even if there are like reputable brand owners and educators in these groups, they'll give you an answer, but then you have 30 other people also giving you other answers and giving you recommendations. And it is truly the Wild West. I couldn't recommend anything less for you to do if you have a client that's reacting. Every day I go into Facebook groups. If they are in our Facebook group, the Lightheart Lash group, I try to remove them as quickly as possible and have me and Katie respond to them privately and get a little more information, because a lot of the time the answers, even if the answers are, they're well-intentioned and it's something that might have worked for this person in the past, it could very well be wrong and it could hurt someone even further. So it's really, really important, if you are a lash artist, that you have your own allergy and irritation protocol in place, that you do not need to wait until it happens to you to go talk to your peers. Because that's not what professionals do. If you went and saw a doctor, a licensed professional with a license, and you said, hey, my elbow is over here, like my elbow is out of place, I don't know, something.
My arm is broken.
And your doctor said, hey,
and they say one moment.
And your doctor said, hey girl, one moment. And they went on to Doctors of Arizona
Facebook page.
And they went into Boss Doctors of Arizona and they said, hey baddies, my client's elbow is out of place. What would you do in this situation? They'd be like, who gave you your license? Like, are you absolutely joking me? And so I believe that licensing programs and beginner fundamentals programs and esthetician programs do need to do a better job of equipping beginners with this information, because it is something that beginners need to know. Now, as far as safety and sanitation goes, I want to encourage you. I still get a lot of questions on how to use barbicide. If you need to understand how to use barbicide, which is typically what most states recommend that you use, every state law is going to be a little different for safety and sanitation. So depending where you got your licensing from, they will tell you how you're required by your state to be storing and sanitizing and sterilizing, which are two different things. Sanitizing and sterilizing are two different things. What you need to do to your tools in order for it to be up to code, up to your best practice. So if you are meant to use barbicide, I recommend going on the barbicide website, and they actually have a little barbicide certification online course, and it's free. And you just register for an account, and you don't need to buy product or anything, even though you will be buying barbicide and containers and everything like that. But I did it when I first started out, and you hang it on your wall. It lets your clients know, and your state board or whoever that comes by, that, hey, you've taken this little course, you know how you're meant to be using barbicide, because you can't just pour it in and then throw your tweezers in there. And so I'm not going to tell you everything that's covered in that, because I think that you should take.
If you haven't taken it, take it. It's not that long.
It's extremely short.
So quick.
And
you get another certificate for your wall. The girls love their certificate.
We all love our certificates. But it contains information like cleaning, sanitization, disinfection, what can't be disinfected, what sterilization is required and is not required, contact time, like how long your tools need to be sitting in barbicide. I will say it's really important that you're using tweezers that are made of a high quality metal, because painted metal tweezers, if they are in barbicide too long, that paint can strip and fall off. And that's why a lot of companies are like, don't soak in barbicide for longer than 5 minutes, because a lot of time it can strip those painted metal tweezers. So I would recommend to get your barbicide certification, check with your state laws on the state board website. If you are in, say, Wisconsin, it'll be, look up Wisconsin Aesthetics Board or Wisconsin, Lash Board or whatever it is. They will tell you what you need to do. but in Canada, I know it's very, very different. It's important that you know what your state requires. So don't be listening to a podcast or, you know, your lash trainer about that. You should know what you need in your state, because it actually does vary where you live. Surprisingly, some states require more, some states require less. As far as storing your tweezers, you should store them somewhere that is covered. Usually it's in a cabinet or it's in one of those tweezer holders where they're upright and there's no air coming into contact with them. Like they have those little acrylic tweezer cases that they have. Yeah, that's what I have on that. But I want to talk about something terrible and scary, and that is reactions. And the first thing I want to talk about is preventing reactions, preventing irritations. And a lot of people are still doing patch testing. Now, patch testing used to be extremely popular, and I know in some parts of the UK it's actually mandatory, which I hope they change, because honestly, patch testing, I believe it is a waste of time. I believe that patch testing is a waste of time. What patch testing is where you have the client come in and you place a few lash extensions on them. Usually it's 5 to 20 per eye, and you use all the products that you would in a lash service. So your primers, your bonders, your lash shampoo, your adhesive. You place lashes close to the skin like you would during a set, and you see if that client reacts. Now the issue with this is that reactions can occur over time, and it's not always going to be the first appointment that a sensitivity and allergy, a reaction. It generally isn't. And so a lot of the time, if someone develops a true allergy to something, it's not going to present itself at that first appointment. It's going to present itself once the body has a chance to actually be introduced to that substance and kind of gauge if it's going to react to that thing or not. And so I wouldn't do them. I don't offer them. And the only time that I really do a trial session is if somebody has a huge life-altering event or like a wedding. Then I strongly recommend, just like a bridal makeup trial, that client comes in and sees me for a trial set of lashes. And this isn't for me to see if there's going to be a reaction or not, because I can't tell that on their first appointment. But what I am going to do is I'm going to recommend that we do a full set before their big event, and we map them and style them. We do that consultation, see if there is going to be any contraindications that might present themselves. And then right before that event, we can do that second set, and we can say, is there anything that you wanted to change up? Oh yeah, I wanted my outer corners to be a little more spikier, and oh, I wanted my inner corners to be a little shorter. And we can do those kind of mapping and styling changes, but it's not going to be really effective for me to do a patch test on somebody for every appointment. It just doesn't make any sense.
True. It can take up to years. It can take like multiple years for someone to develop an actual allergy
to anything.
Once they start getting lash extensions, or that's why a lot of times if you move to a new place, you won't have allergies for the first few years, and then you'll start developing allergies like year 3 through 5. Happens a lot with a lot of people, and it's just because it takes your body time to start acting up.
Yeah. I want to talk about sensitivities and then allergies, but first I want to talk about infections. I know we don't like to talk about it, but sometimes people can get infections, and that is why it's really, really important when we're working around the eye area that we're disinfecting and we're sterilizing all of the tools that we're using, and we're using disposables. I know this might seem common knowledge to a lot of you, but especially if you're applying liquid products, that you are using disposable micro swabs, you're only using one spoolie per client, and then you're throwing that spoolie out, giving them a new one, and that you're not cross-contaminating using your tiles. And so I recommend using a new covered tile for each client. So take your tile, put those strips of lashes on from the case, use them on your client, and I recommend if you have any left over, you can write the name of that client, because we assume all of our clients are repeats and we're rebooking them, right? So you're going to write the name of that client, put a cover onto that tile, and store it in your cabinet. And the next time that client comes back, you can use those lashes on that client. But because we're going from that tile with our hands and our tweezers to that client's forehead and then back to that tile, we're touching their skin cells, we're touching their actual skin. We don't want to be putting that back on those strips of fibers and then using them on a next client. That's considered cross-contamination. And so we would either, what I always did, if I had just a few lashes left over, I would use those as practice lashes because they're already contaminated technically. And so when I'm doing practice, when I'm doing sponge art, when I'm filming videos or something, which we all should be doing, which we should all be practicing no matter how advanced we are, I will use those leftover lashes and just use those for practice if you don't want to store them away, or if it was a one-time client. And then I would recommend just having a tile for every single client you have. So preventing infection is really, I mean, you can do your best by not cross-contaminating, sterilizing your tools really, really well, washing your hands, making sure your environment is as clean as it possibly can be, using a wipe on your bed. I've always used Cavi wipes. And if you're using Cavi wipes, you want to make sure that you're wearing gloves. They can hurt your skin.
Depending on like your leather, if you have like a leather bed, they can strip.
Yeah. So some people have a bed cover if they're using a leather bed. But it is important that you wipe it down. Yes. So. Your thing should be clean. And it's also important not to work on clients that have open wounds or open eye wounds. I have seen it happen before.
I feel like a lot of the people watching have had clients who are like, hey girl, I got eye surgery, but I really want to get my lashes done.
Absolutely. And in that case, I would make sure that they have a note from, if they recently had eye surgery, which this has actually happened. This happened
to Madison.
It happened to one of our renters.
It did happen to her?
Yes, it happened to one of our renters too. If a client has had recent eye surgery, a blepharoplasty, an upper eye lift, whatever it is, and they have like stitching.
Tear duct surgery.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. I was talking about the lid surgery. One of our renter's clients had a lid surgery and she had open stitches and she booked a lash appointment. And she was like, well, my doctor said it was okay. Okay, well, you in your practice, even if you have a doctor's note, if somebody has bleeding eyelids with active stitches. Too.
Even if their doctor says it's okay and you don't feel comfortable, you can say no.
Acrylate-based adhesives are a skin irritant. You do not want to introduce a skin irritant to any open wound. It is best practice to turn that client away until their skin is completely healed. Now, I had a client who got tear duct surgery and she came in after her tear duct surgery. I loved this client, by the way. Loved her. And she laid down, and when I was going to tape her, and they're looking straight into your soul, I looked down at her and she had tubes in the corner of her eye.
You're like, what is this?
And she said, oh, I forgot to tell you, just be careful when you tape me, because if you pull my bottom lid down too far, the tube will physically pop out, because it's not like sewn into your eyeball or anything. It's just rested there. So she can't, for instance, like go like this or go like this, because that tube physically will pop out and she will need to get some sort of like corrective surgery. So no pressure on me. I had never seen anything like it in my life. Her doctor said it was completely clear for her to get lash extensions. And honestly, there was obviously no open wounding or anything. I lashed her. She just had tear duct tubes.
Little scary,
but
though.
Again, little scary for Mad, but I have a consultation, I have a waiver, and her doctor cleared her, and there was no open wounds or scabbing or bleeding or anything like that. She was completely healed, and it wasn't going to affect how her eye closed. If her eye couldn't close or anything like that, then I would be scared to work on her. But I taped her very gently, using foam tape as I usually do, making sure that you detack it before applying, and I removed it very carefully, and we were fine for years and years and years. But it's important that you have your consultation not only at that first appointment, because I had already been seeing her for a year. This was after probably a year of seeing me, but just saying, hey, any changes? How are your lashes? Any changes with your eyes? No upcoming surgery? Just having those conversations are so important, because we need to make sure that we are keeping our clients safe. I'm really glad that she told me that, and I knew that, because imagine if a little tube popped out of me.
It also shows your clients that you care.
It shows your clients that you care about them, because you do. And I want to talk about sensitivities and irritants before I talk about allergies, because allergies are actually very, very rare and very uncommon. And a lot of people think that their clients are allergic when they're not at all, and they're just very sensitive. And there are things that we can be doing. Cyanoacrylate is a known skin irritant. And this is why we have licenses, and this is why we have certifications. This is why lashes are, a regulated service a lot of places, because we are working with professional products that consumers can't use, and they have certain irritants and certain things that we need to be equipped to work with.
So the fact that it is a skin irritant isn't the end of the world.
No, not at all.
There's lots of things that, like, chemical peels are skin irritants. Retinol is a skin irritant if you go out in the sun. There's lots of things that are used all the time that are skin irritants. Cyanoacrylate is a skin irritant. However, it is medically safe. It is a safe compound. It is used to bond wounds. For in instances, it's been used by the military a lot to close wounds without the need of stitches. It is a medically safe compound because it does cure to be inert. So when it cures, it's just a plastic. It's not going to react with anything. However, when it is a liquid and when it is curing, it does release gases that can be irritating and that are skin irritants. And so because of that, it just means that it is important that you take all of the precautions necessary to minimize the amount of irritation that your client is experiencing. There is nothing involved with using cyanoacrylate that is going to cause any like permanent issues for your client as long as you're using it correctly and you're not, you know, like you're not going to have any issues with cyanoacrylate unless you're getting it like inside their eye. You know, if you're getting adhesive on their eyeball, they're going to have some issues. It's going to be bad.
Do not do that.
That's absolutely. But if you're not,
what's so crazy, and you know what's crazy? In my 8 years of being a lash artist, obviously my biggest fear was like getting glue in someone's eye.
Absolutely.
And like applying a lash way too close to the skin where it would like the adhesive would travel into the eyeball. And that's a very valid concern. And that was my concern as a beginner lash artist because I never wanted to apply lashes too close because of course when you're using strip lash glue or a runnier DIY cluster lash adhesive, those are not going to cure quickly like a professional lash adhesive is. So of course, if you use too much too close to the skin, it could get in the waterline, get in the eye and really, really hurt. But in my 8 years, I and no one I've ever met online or in person has ever gotten professional lash adhesive in the client's eye.
that is,
I've never heard of it.
and that's awesome.
Even
and
beginners,
so,
I've actually never seen it or heard of it. Thank God, I've never heard of it.
so just be careful, but it's not something that we really have to worry about.
No.
So that's good. And the thing is, aside from that, there's not really much bad that can happen with cyanoacrylate. Like even if the cyanoacrylate touches your client's eyelid, if it touches the skin, it can be irritating. Especially it can be uncomfortable as the lash grows out. If the extension is
of course.
glued to the eye, it's going to cause a lot of discomfort, but it's not, even that isn't causing any really harmful damage. It's going to be very uncomfortable. They need to get it fixed. Like you don't want that, but there's not a ton of danger of like really severe damage with cyanoacrylate based adhesives, even though it is a skin irritant. But really all it means is you just gotta take the precautions and be careful to make sure you're minimizing the amount of contact that your client has with the adhesive, especially like eliminate any contact between your client's skin and the adhesive and minimize the contact between your client and the fumes from the adhesive curing as much as possible. So that means being in a very well ventilated area. That's the primary thing.
Ventilation is huge.
Yeah, make sure. And it's also for your own health and safety too, is you want your room to be very, very well ventilated because the fumes that are put off by cyanoacrylate are considered VOCs, volatile organic compounds, which are not good to inhale over long periods of time.
No.
So also for your health, make sure you're in a very well ventilated area. If you notice that you are inhaling a lot of the fumes, you feel your eyes are watering a lot, it's smart to lash with a mask on, like an N95 mask will block out most VOCs. Try and minimize the amount that you're also inhaling those type of compounds.
Yeah, lash artist health is super important as well. We matter too. What I wanted to talk about is what we can do during the appointment to minimize irritations, sensitivities, and fumes. Like things that aren't very dramatic, but if clients are like, oh, you know, my eyes, I get in the car, my eyes are so tight, or they're a little itchy, or they're stingy. Things that we can do. Make sure we're using a fresh, high quality adhesive, making sure we're working in a well ventilated area. I am a firm believer in Bonder, in bonding solutions. It is not a scam. It is a liquid that we apply with a micro swab directly to the base of the extensions a minute or two after application. And now what Bonder is we know that water, just water, shock cures really adhesive if it's still in its kind of curing state. But water is what cures our adhesive. So what Bonder is it is a combination of water and other stabilizers to perfectly cure the adhesive from the inside out. So your clients can open their eyes way more comfortably without any fumes or sensitivities. There's no need to nanomist. Really, there's no need to fan besides comfort. I barely ever fan my clients anymore. But Bonder cures our adhesive perfectly. Your clients can walk out and there shouldn't be any further irritations, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, your adhesive should be fully cured by Bonder, and the only reason to use Bonder instead of water is because Bonder includes some like inhibitors that slow down the curing process so that your glue isn't shot curing. Because what can happen, like we talked about in the adhesive episode, when your adhesive cures, it is forming these big long chains of cyanoacrylate molecules that are big and long. They get all tangled together, and that's what makes it into like a solid mass. If you're shot curing, you're curing a ton of cyanoacrylate molecules all at once, which ends up making really, really short chains, which causes it to be not strong at all, because instead of these big long chains that all get tangled together, you just have a bunch of short little chains that are just kind of next to each other. They're not all tangled up, and you're not making like a really strong, solid, cured mass of glue. You just get kind of like a crumbly like mess. And so that's the reason we use Bonder instead of water, because it like slows it down and it gives those cyanoacrylate molecules time to form the really, really long chains while still curing it fully and making sure that you don't have any glue that is yet to cure.
If you have a client that is sensitive to fumes as well, I always get the question, should you perform a lash bath, washing their lashes on the table with water and lash shampoo after the service? Is that going to be a benefit to you? Is it going to hinder you? Should you do it at all? I think if you have a very sensitive client, yes, you should be doing a lash bath before they leave, but do it after you bond. So after a minute after application, you've put your last lash on, bond their lashes generously using a bonder. I wish I had one to recommend to you guys.
If only we were about to come out with one in like a couple months. It's still gonna be
gosh
like
darn
months,
it, you guys.
two, maybe 3. I don't know. We're trying our best. Here's the thing: we wanted to come out with a good bonder. We're not just white labeling something. We're coming out with our own bonder, our own formula. We perfected it. It's good, but it just takes time. It just
does take a lot of time.
So it is coming.
Our factory, they are choo-choo. They are working as fast as they possibly can, which is very slow. So that will be done this summer, perhaps?
Yes.
Perhaps.
This summer. Coming out this summer.
I've teased it so much. And well, we've been working on it since last summer. And it's phenomenal. It's nothing that you can find on the market right now. Cures adhesive incredibly well, and it leaves your client's lashes very comfortable. But we can't really say more. It doesn't exist yet. So until then, I don't know. Use a bonder you like. I can't recommend any. I don't use any others. I use our formula.
She uses the samples.
I use our samples.
Really good.
I literally
I'm telling you guys, they're really good samples.
I have not used another bonder in over a year. So use whatever works for you right now. But yes, if you have a sensitive client, you can totally lash bath them. Some people use like a saline solution. Some people use lash bath. Some people use distilled water and you know, whatever you use. Wash your client's lashes before they leave if you have a more sensitive client. And then after they leave, there should be no issues. There should be absolutely no problems for them. Now, what if you have a client, because irritations look very different for different people. The irritation that I am prone to, that a lot of talkers are prone to, is red scleras, meaning the sclera is the white of the eye, and that actual white of the eye can get a little bit red after application. Here's the thing with this. If you have a client send you a picture and their eyes are red, it looks like this. Obviously, that picture is so horrifying and every lash artist gets it. Do not post that picture in a Facebook group and ask for advice.
What do I do?
I'm begging you on my hands and knees. Remove yourself. Remove yourself. If you're fighting the urge to post it in a Facebook group, exit right now. Go back to this episode. What you are going to want to do is you are going to want to respond to your client immediately. Do not let them go on Reddit, Google what to do, because they will freak out. I need you to respond to them immediately and say, oh my gosh, that is so unfortunate. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Take responsibility. It looks like the eye was open during application. I should have caught that. I am so sorry. It could have been because we were chatting a little bit. I did use foam tape on your upper lid, but I could have done a better job closing them more. I will be aware in the future to make sure that your eyes are completely closed during application. You're not allergic. It's nothing to be scared of. This is simply just an irritation of your eyes opening during application. They don't need to know all the details, but the details really is that cyanoacrylate, the particulates of it really like to, when our eye is open, they kind of settle on the whites of our eyes. And it
because your eyes are very moist.
Your eyes are wet.
Your eyes
Shocker,
are wet.
Your eyes
There's
are
water
wet.
on your eyes.
Of course. And this is why it's also important to take contacts out before you do someone's lashes.
Yes, true.
Please take your contacts out before you get your lashes done.
Out.
But our eyes are very moist, and if our eyes are open a little bit, then of course our cyanoacrylate, it kind of, those little particulates like to settle on the whites of the eyes and they can irritate it. The good news is you can tell your client, this will not get worse because that adhesive has completely cured. It's only going to get better, but it's super uncomfortable. I would love for you to put a warm, wet compress above your eyes, on your eyelids, just, because their eyes are going to be their eyeballs are going to really hurt and be sensitive. And I would just say, I'm going to be really careful how I tape you and having your eyes closed at that next appointment. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Take responsibility. It was my fault. I should have checked your eyes during the entire application. Because even if their eyes just open the tiniest little bit, those particulates can still get in there and still be really, really uncomfortable. I have it happen to myself, almost every time, because I'm a yapper and I'm talking to my eyes.
Madison just deals with it. She's like, I know what I'm getting into.
I just deal with it. Obviously they can use lubricating eye drops that might help a little bit over the counter. But it really shouldn't last more than a few days and it should go away. And I would say, just for your own comfort, I would be washing your lashes twice a day. I'm so sorry that happened to you. My bad. And you can offer them a little bit of a discount, just as an apology and check in with them for the next few days. Every few days, obviously, that it's going to get better and everything. But for the next few days, just reach out and say, hi, beautiful. I just want to check in, see if your eyes are a little bit more comfortable. Again, so sorry, and I can't wait to see you again. Do those little check-ins so that they're not the ones going to Facebook groups. They're not the ones going to Reddit. They're not the ones going to their Instagram stories and bashing you or spreading misinformation or talking about, that you gave them like an infection or an allergy, things that like aren't happening, because something is happening, but it is not either of those things. So you want to be as open and informed and apologetic and understanding to your clients as possible. It's because their eyes were open. Let's talk about if the actual upper lid is red. This could be from a lot of things, right? This is usually contact dermatitis. This is something that is introduced to the follicle that is irritating it. In this case, it is, people can get contact dermatitis from anything. They can get it from makeup. They can get it from soaps. They can get it from, a lot of things. But if somebody has a red, itchy eyelid, thoughts, Elliot?
That sucks.
God, that sucks. It's probably an irritation. It's probably contact dermatitis. In this case, there are things that are within our scope of practice to deal with, and there are things that are outside of our scope of practice to deal with. And it's really important that we know our limits and we know our boundaries, because
first step, if they have contact dermatitis, tell them to rub Flonase on it.
That's a joke if you didn't get that. Tell them to rub barbecue sauce on their eyelids and do a couple cartwheels. Like, I know.
Do not tell them to rub Flonase on it. Do not do that.
Don't look up on TikTok like how to cure a lash allergy or how to cure contact dermatitis.
It's all bad.
Like it's all bad. Again, respond immediately. Say, hi, Sarah. Oh my goodness. My sincerest apologies. That is so uncomfortable. It looks like you're experiencing some form of contact dermatitis. I would recommend that you give your GP a call, tell them what is happening. They will understand what contact dermatitis means. Say that you got your lash extensions done, by a qualified professional, and they will know what to do. Typically, the doctor, the general practitioner, will prescribe your clients some sort of steroid cream or drop, barrier cream. Sometimes it's a drop to put inside the eyes, whatever they see fit. Sometimes they don't even have to see them in person. They can just like telehealth it, and they will pick that up, use it for a day or two, and then those symptoms will subside and go away. And typically they'll be able to continue getting their lashes done by you. Yes. Do not tell your clients to take Benadryl, to take any medication, to put Flonase on their lids. Those things are outside of our scope of practice. So even if they seem harmless or they worked for you or they worked for a friend, we can still get in trouble because we are, what falls under our license is cosmetics, is beauty services. Anything that gets into that medical realm, it can get us in trouble later on. And so you don't want to really cross those boundaries and cross those lines. The other thing, if you are a lash professional, I would build a relationship with a doctor or an eye doctor in your local area that you can refer clients to if they're having an ocular health issue, if they are having a medical issue, if they're, experiencing certain symptoms. You want to be able to say, hey, I work with this doctor. They're going to be able to help you. And have that, and have them know exactly what you use, what products you use, that your application is clean. Because a lot of the time, lash artists, if they experience an issue with their client, like contact dermatitis, for example, and then their client goes to see an eye doctor and you haven't built, a relationship with them, the eye doctor could say, well, you're allergic to lash extensions. Don't get your lash extensions done. And that hurts everybody, right? Because
then you say, what the heck?
And I will say, I hate that phrase, you're allergic to lash extensions, because lash extensions never hurt anybody. Lash extensions themselves, like the physical extension, is made out of essentially plastic. It's PBT fiber.
You allergic to plastic?
Who's allergic to?
You allergic to water bottles?
Are you allergic to a water bottle? Eyelash extensions, you cannot be allergic to. I mean, can people have a plastic allergy, Elliot? I don't think so. I've never seen it.
I've never heard of a plastic allergy.
I mean, if you have a plastic allergy,
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
That sucks.
I
have
apologize.
to live in a world in like that's the thing is I don't know how you would go about life in America with a plastic allergy because like everything is made of plastic.
We're like inhaling microplastics.
Yeah.
Like, the moment we wake up.
We're consuming a credit card's worth of microplastics every day.
We really are.
I don't think that's true. I think that is an exaggeration. But
yes.
It's a credit card amount every some period.
But it's important that, you know, if you see a general practitioner and you yourself see an eye doctor, I would bring it up. Hey, this is what I do for work. I'm looking to like build a relationship with some medical professionals so that if my clients ever have issues, they can contact you or they can contact someone else. Like, who's a good referral for them? If they don't have someone, can you answer these questions? These are the products I use, that they're able to actually team up with you and not be against you, fighting against you, especially if you live in a really small town. That could ruin your reputation. It really could.
Bro. So find someone who's good, refer them, and then chill.
I'm passionate about this because I was once told that I was allergic to lash extensions.
So sad.
Shocker.
And then she quit. And then she quit doing lashes, and then she never did lashes again.
No, I just opened my eyes during application. The whites of my eyes got red, and they told me I was allergic to lash extensions. And
she took that picture. She was like,
I took that picture. Oh, what's going on? It went away in like 3 days, and I mean it sucks, but I've tried to keep my peepers closed ever since.
Yep.
But yeah, there are things in our scope of practice, and allergies. You want to make sure that your consult covers that. Hey, I am using skin irritants, I am using adhesives that can be known to be irritating if used improperly, or, you know, of course, there could be medical contraindications where clients are a lot more sensitive. Their skin is a lot more sensitive. They could have a sensitivity by something that's going on with them. And that's why it's important to have a very detailed consultation and you cover those things, not in a scary way, but then if something does arise, you're like, oh my gosh, like, you don't have to sue me. You don't have to be like, you never told me this and you never made me sign anything. You never made me sign a form. You're well informed and you can have the conversation before the appointment begins in a not scary way.
True.
Is there anything else that clients could be sensitive to besides cyanoacrylate during their lash application?
They could be sensitive. You might hurt their feelings.
They could be sensitive on the inside. So be aware of that.
Heart.
Yes. Well, no, some people are irritated by low quality metal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I've seen people use very, very cheap.
Yeah. Like technically, the metal should never be touching your client.
No, but the tweezer itself, if it is touching their skin.
But technically, the tweezer shouldn't be touching their skin because it's touching the foam tape.
Of course not. But
I mean, it's possible.
Certainly possible.
It's possible. You could be irritated by low quality metal. Your little fingers start getting all rashy.
Yeah, absolutely.
If your fingers are getting rashy, you should switch to Lightheart tweezers.
Use a high quality metal tweezer.
Made with high quality stainless steel.
Yeah. What do you say to people that are sensitive to dyes and colorants and they might be irritated by, say, carbon black?
Are people irritated by carbon black? That's so interesting to me.
Sometimes.
I mean,
very rare.
It's possible, but if they're irritated by carbon black, I would assume they'd also be irritated by, like, they couldn't use the charcoal toothpaste.
It's incredible.
They'd be irritated by regular charcoal.
It's incredibly rare, but
they couldn't get their stomach pumped.
No, I've gotten my stomach pumped, you guys.
She did.
I know. When I was a little kid, I drank a whole bottle of Benadryl or Pepto-Bismol or something.
Yeah.
And
so I feel like if someone's allergic to carbon black, they would know.
They would know.
They would know for sure.
And that's why it's important during your consultation. You don't want to just say any allergies because people will be like, oh, I'm allergic to shellfish. Irrelevant. I mean, don't eat shellfish around their eyes. But you want
eat shellfish.
You want to be asking
halfway through their appointment.
Halfway through your appointment. One moment, please.
You start microwaving some king crab. Like 1 sec. Get out your cracker. You go. They're in the splash zone.
For the love of all that is holy.
You start doing one of those mukbangs with the giant pot of liquid.
Yeah.
The sauce, the giant sauce, you start dipping it.
Your clients are like, what's going on up there? Oh, I just forgot to eat lunch today. One moment, girl. They like put their microphone on.
Like
and also, oh, please don't do that into the microphone. In all seriousness, ask about what your clients are allergic to and be very specific. Do they have any dye allergies? Do they have any adhesive allergies? And the thing is, if people are sensitive to things like acrylic nails, or they're sensitive to things like strip lash glue, they're sensitive to things, you know, any sort of adhesives, Band-Aids even, like they'll know and they'll tell you. And just have that conversation before they come in.
And if they're allergic to acrylic nails, that is a very good sign that they might actually have a cyanoacrylate allergy and they're actually allergic.
Yeah.
Because if someone is allergic to cyanoacrylate, they will also generally, not 100% of the time, but generally they'll also be allergic to acrylic nails, because acrylic sounds kind of like acrylate. That's because they are the same molecule. Acrylic is the same as as acrylate. It's the same thing. So if they're allergic to one, they'll most likely be allergic to the other. They are slightly different molecules, but they're very, very similar. And generally, you'll be allergic to both.
If I have a client that has a true reaction, like their lids swell up, their lids are puffy and swollen and itchy, and they're having a true like allergic reaction to the eyelash adhesive that I am using, I would not use a different adhesive hoping that it would solve the problem. Nope. I would not use a sensitive adhesive. I would not use a clear adhesive.
You say sorry, babes.
I would recommend
not lash extension.
I would recommend an at-home lash system. I would teach them how to put them on. In the past, I've custom made my clients magnetic eyelashes, where I buy them and I actually put their lash map on them and then I give them to them. There are lots of things that we can do for clients that have genuine, true reactions. I mean, they're like lash lifts are a great option. You can make magnetic custom strip lashes. You can be offering them DIY lash systems. There's lots of things that you can do to continue to offer services to these clients. But unfortunately, you don't want to risk the integrity of your business by continuing to present that irritant to them if they've been so sensitive to it in the past, right? It's just not best practice. I've had clients who over 10 years have developed a really severe allergy to lash extension adhesive, and it wouldn't be in their best interest for me to continue servicing them knowing that this could hurt them, right? And so that's where you as a professional come in and say, you know, I'm not going to like do this to you if it's going to hurt you going forward. Typically, allergies aren't something to be cured or fixed. There's really nothing that we can do. There's no magic adhesive out there if somebody really has a very severe and true reaction. So it's important to know kind of where those lines are for the health and safety of your client.
Period.
The last thing I wanted to touch on is what they can be doing at home. And the number one thing that your clients can be doing to keep their eye health intact at home is to be keeping their lid margin and their lash line clean. And when I say wash your lashes, and when your lash artist says to wash your lashes, and we can clip this, when your lash artist tells you to wash your lashes, it is not a gimmick. It is not because they're wanting to upsell you something. It's not because they're wanting to make an extra $15 off of you. It is genuinely to benefit the health of your eyes. Your ocular hygiene is their number one priority. And this is why your lash artist doesn't tell you just to put foam cleanser on and just rub it in the shower. They actually want you to be getting it in their really high quality lash cleansers. You should be able to really get in there and go in between your lashes, and it shouldn't burn your eyeballs. A lot of the time, if you're using a really safe lash cleanser that's ophthalmologist tested and everything like that, it's a gentle cleanser. If it is burning after the fact, usually this is because you are wearing makeup. There's lots of oil and dirt built up on your lid, and that is actually burning your eye itself. Have you ever worn like a full face of makeup and then you wash it off and your eyes are kind of stingy and burny? It's because all that dirt and debris and oil and sebum is kind of leaking into your eyeball a little bit and sort of burning it. So I would make sure that if your client is wearing makeup, they're washing it off every single day. If they are, in salt water or they're wearing a lot of makeup or anything like that, that they just wash their lashes immediately after, because the longer they wait to wash their lashes and you have all that buildup, the more it's going to be a little itchy and stingy when they wash their lashes. So this is why it's important to wash your lashes multiple times a day. I would be washing them in the morning when you wake up, start the day off, then brush them right out. And then at night before you go to bed, removing all that makeup, all that dirt, oil, debris, and washing them a second time. So keeping your lid margins, and your eyes clean is
You
really,
don't want
really,
lash mites.
No, and
Yuck.
they're
real.
They're real, and they live on everybody.
Real. I've seen the microscope pictures.
We've
They're
seen the
so
microscope
scary.
pictures. They really, really are. Other things to be aware of that's really important in your consultation is if your client suffers with something like dry eye, if they suffer from any sort of eye illness.
Wet eye.
What?
I was just joking.
Well, what would you say?
Said wet eye.
Ew.
The opposite.
Hey, you got that.
If you got wet eye.
No, because dry eye is very
That's
common.
like Katie. She's always crying.
She
got wet eye.
She is always crying.
Oh no, now she has dry eye.
Katie has dry eye.
Oh, she had wet eye for so long it turned into dry eye.
No, she's just always had dry eye. Dry eye is very common. If someone recently had LASIK, if they recently, underwent, there's lots of things that we need to be aware of during our consultation. I will plug, if you need consent forms, we have them on our website. They'll do the job for you. You can do those. I recommend doing them in person with your client. It's one of the reasons why I don't do my consultation before their appointment. Like some people have it, like you do the consultation on the website, booking website before they come in, and that's fine. But I would also be doing it in person as well, because then if your client has any questions, they're not just scrolling through and clicking the box. They actually are with you in person to say, oh, I have a question about that, or oh yeah, I do have that, or I did change up this in my routine, or this is a part of my lifestyle, or I am a smoker, or I am pregnant, or I am breastfeeding, anything like that. It's really important that we have that conversation in person so that we can keep irritations and sensitivities at bay, because we know everything that is going on within them, because what is happening within our bodies will translate outside of our bodies when we introduce something like eyelash enhancements, hair extensions, nail enhancements. All that stuff is affected by what's going on internally. So our consultation and our consent form is mandatory. It's essential. You have to do it. You have to include things like medical contraindications. It's not just styling. And that is going to set you apart as a lash artist and not just a lash technician. And I love you guys. We are excited to continue this series. And I think there's a reason I wanted to point out why we are making this series free and not making it a course or a subscribers only thing. I think that this is I care about lash artists.
We just want everyone to know that.
I care about lash artists so much. And I think that like beginner education is so hard to sell. And the people that need this education, sometimes they aren't beginners. And so it's like not marketed to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that just anyone that puts tweezers near someone's eye needs to be aware of this information. And I'm happy to take the time to freely give it. And then they can take advanced classes. They can advance their education later, but it's just not talked about, and it needs to be. And I just think you can't put a price tag on that.
Period.
I don't think.
I agree.
Because I know lash artists that would benefit from this information after 15 years, but they're not going to take a $500 online training to take it. Like they're just not.
True.
No matter how well I market it. True. So I feel like just freely being.
So send this to your friends.
Send this to your friends.
Anyone who might get any value out of it.
Yeah.
Don't send it to them and be like, girl, you need this.
No.
But be like, hey, this helped me. Maybe it'll help you. Yeah. That's all we want. We just want to help. Hopefully, I don't think anyone is listening to this and every single thing in here is new information.
No.
But hopefully there's a couple little things that we said here that might have been like, oh, I didn't know that before. And that's all we want. That's all we want. So
love you guys so much.
Love you so much.
Truly love you guys. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.